Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Janelle Slade.
And I'm Jay Cohn. The fast-growing wildfire that forced evacuations in Glacier National Park last night still burning out of control. Those evacuation orders now in place for the Lake McDonald complex for a second night.
Forcing tourists and employees to scramble to safety.
Last night, conditions in the Lake McDonald area went from bad to worse as this fire blew up, now estimated at some 1,500 acres in size. Now, this video of the firestorm shot from a boat operator out on Lake McDonald on Sunday. The rapid growth and extreme fire behavior prompting the evacuations that began around 8 o'clock last night.
Now, the evacuation orders remain in effect for the Lake McDonald area and North Lake McDonald Road. The Sprague Creek and Avalanche campgrounds are also off limits, along with 32 miles of Going to the Sun Road from the foot of Lake McDonald to Logan Pass. Tonight, one resident talks about being forced to flee the flames and not knowing what will be left.
All but 2 cabins have been burned in the fire, but 2 cabins did make it. We don't know anything about our cabin.
Now, this afternoon, 2 Canadian Super Scooper airplanes and a Type 1 helicopter assisted from the air. They doused small fires that sparked throughout the Lake McDonald area.
Also, fires closer to home on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in southeastern Montana, where dry lightning is blamed for sparking a handful of small fires. Take a look at this map. It shows where those fires are burning. They're within the Lynch Coulee complex. 5 fires have burned less than 100 acres. The fires did force ground and air crews to act quickly to try to prevent those flames from spreading further. Now, these pictures are of the Buffalo Springs fire along with the Clubfoot fire and what's called the Golden Eagle fire. These are the largest fires. They range in size from a small of 15 acres up to 60 acres. Fire Management Officer Adam Wolf says these fires sparked as a result of not 1 but 2 waves of dry lightning that struck Sunday night. Crews worked overnight and into this afternoon, with 2 fires still active late this afternoon.
Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke says climate change is not his main concern when it comes to preventing wildfires like those burning in California. He spoke today after touring the damage from the Carr Fire near Redding. It's the second largest blaze burning right now in California. The state now experiencing more wildfires because of high temperatures and dry conditions. Zinke says the key to preventing more fires is better forest management.
Lastly, I just want to comment on a couple things I've heard. I've heard climate change. Like, whether you're a proponent or an opponent, a believer, a non-believer of climate change, it doesn't relieve you of the responsibility to manage our public.
And at that point, reports were that 2 people were in the water.
And today's search effort included about 20 people, with more expected tomorrow, including a dive team from Utah. The National Park Service called in the Coast Guard to help keep the area secure. Right now, the lake is not closed, but boaters are asked to use caution where the recovery effort is concentrated.
And according to area boating maps, the water in that search area is over 300 feet deep in many places.
Employees responsible for security at the Seattle-Tacoma Airport got together today to talk about the breach in security over the weekend and how to prevent it from ever happening again. An airline employee easily stole a commercial aircraft and took it on a deadly flight. Here's Jamie Yukas.
For more than an hour, the stolen plane soared and flipped in the skies above Seattle, and controllers on the ground had no idea who they were dealing with. A possible terrorist or this?
Just a broken guy. Got a few screws loose, I guess. Never really knew it until now.
Richard Russell worked for Horizon Air as a baggage and cargo handler at SeaTac, which has some of the nation's most stringent security procedures for ground personnel. Authorities are still at a loss to explain why he suddenly seized control of an empty 76-seat commuter plane. He used a tow tractor to turn the turboprop aircraft 180 degrees toward the runway, then climbed aboard. Without pilot training, he got behind the controls and positioned the plane for an unauthorized takeoff.
Right now he's just flying around, and he just needs some help controlling his aircraft.
Nah, I mean, I don't need that much help. I played some video games before.
Last year, Congress passed a law mandating tougher screening standards for all airport employees. Ground workers in Seattle undergo criminal background checks, go through metal detectors, have their bags screened, and their fingerprints scanned to verify their identity. But there are no psychological screenings. Today, CBS News transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve spoke with TSA Administrator David Pekoski.
Can you screen for things like mental health in an effective way?
With regard to mental health, I mean, we do screening in terms of background checking for all airport workers. And one of the things that we emphasize, if you see something, say something, also applies for insider threats.
People are calling this a 1 in a million chance that this would happen. Did you ever plan for something like this?
I've asked the question point blank. Have we ever seen this experience? And I think this is really, truly 1 in a million experience. That doesn't mean we can't learn from it.
Security here at the airport has been stepped up since the incident. The black boxes have also been recovered and should show if the plane stalled or was deliberately driven into the ground. Jamie Yukas, CBS News, SeaTac, Washington.
Elsewhere, an FBI agent who sent anti-Trump texts fired today. Peter Strzok was a lead investigator in the Russia probe before those texts surfaced. His attorney says the texts were reviewed internally and that the FBI Office of Professional Responsibility only recommended a suspension and demotion. But the deputy director of the FBI overruled that determination, and Strzok was fired instead. Strzok had spent 22 years with the Bureau. President Trump calls him a disgrace to our country.
And on to our weather scene, Bob. It's amazing what a 20-degree difference can make.
It is amazing, yeah, because it was so hot yesterday.
Yes.
About 3 o'clock that hour, we got up to 103 degrees in Billings, and then it cooled down. Let me show you what happened at 4 o'clock. We had a 20-degree temperature change. What a difference that made, huh? And over at Williston, North Dakota, it was a 42-degree temperature change. Wow, that really made a difference. All of eastern Montana had teens and 20s, cooler than what they had the previous day. Wow, what a day today was. It felt much cooler out there. Now, is it going to last? That's the big question. Let me show you what we have a week ahead. It's going to be 81 tomorrow, up to 91 on Wednesday, 93 Thursday, and back down to 90 on Friday. I like the way it says back down on 90 on Friday. Then after that into the 70s as we head into the weekend. We'll have more coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob.
I didn't see any hundreds on that list. That's a good thing. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, this blast from the past might just make you say, whoa. A look at horse racing history at Montana Fair coming up.
It was a jam over at Washington Grizzly Stadium today. We'll check out a concert 2 decades in the making.
And later in sports, the Mustangs wowed the crowd with some great glove work. Would their bats, though, make enough noise to provide a win? Those highlights coming up.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Janelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.